Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. To start things off, the crypto exchange known as Coinbase is apparently sending out notices to its users in Europe, letting them know the impact of a looming potential no-deal Brexit. And a no-deal outcome, Britain would abruptly exit the European Union on Halloween without any formal agreement on the so-called divorce process. If this happens, Coinbase says it will be likely forced to end its relationship with the UK-based e-money institution known as CB Payments, which is licensed within the United Kingdom's Financial Conduct Authority and allows Coinbase to issue digital currency transactions within the European Union. The news comes from an email sent to Crypto Vanessa, who shared it on Twitter with her 40,000 followers. If a no-deal Brexit happens, Coinbase says it plans to work with another unnamed company instead of CB Payments, and users will not be affected. Here's the actual information right here. This is the second change for Coinbase UK in the last month. In early August, the exchange abruptly delisted Zcash, reportedly triggered by a recent change of banks from Barclays to Clearbit. Quite interesting to see the beginning effects of what could potentially happen. It is widely believed, for those of you who have not necessarily been paying attention to the entire Brexit situation, it is not looking like at this moment that there's going to be a deal between the United Kingdom and the European Union once this actually ends up taking place, which means, in theory, or so saith the law, that the United Kingdom will have to create brand new trade deals all over again with the European Union. It is expected that these trade deals that they previously had before will not be carried over after the divorce has happened, and therefore the United Kingdom may get the short end of the stick. They may not get the best situation for them. However, it's very fascinating, and the main reason, I guess, why the idea or the talk about the Brexit continuously comes up over in the cryptocurrency community, cryptocurrency space, is that we've seen before, I believe it was in Cyprus, many other places around the world, whenever there's something expressively heavily negative that may happen to a country's economy. Like, we've seen Bitcoin reacting positively at the beginning of this year until now, based on the things that we've seen in other countries as the hyperinflation has hit, currency problems, so and so, yada, yada, yada. Bitcoin has done fairly well. These have also not been, if I can say so, major economically heavily dominant countries, if you understand what I'm saying. Not like the United Kingdom. So the idea that the United Kingdom may not fare well potentially after something like, for those of you who haven't really been paying attention for a while, since the beginning of I remember the moment after the Brexit vote had actually happened, stocks and everything plummeted. Everyone completely was terrified. So the fact that there may actually be an actual Brexit and also a no-deal Brexit where once again they have no deals between them and the European Union is moments like these are very fascinating, and I think they are learning opportunities for people in the cryptocurrency space to really get a gauge as to exactly what Bitcoin reacts to and what the wider cryptocurrency space reacts to, because we have seen a couple of instances before in the cryptocurrency Bitcoin price space where Bitcoin has not reacted as people thought it would. However, analysts, I will say, think that this could be one of the greatest moments for Bitcoin to shine should this come to fruition on the 31st of October, which is about a good 8 weeks away. Let's move on. Bit of a country hop once again in this video. Yves Mersch, board member of the European Central Bank, commented that Facebook's Libra could pose danger for the European monetary policy. This was reported by Reuters. The European Central Bank has a mandate to look over the liquidity and steer the pace of the Eurozone economy through its interest rate and liquidity interventions. A large-scale digital asset could create an informal economy that is outside the control of the European Central Bank, obviously. He said, and I do quote, depending on Libra's level of acceptance and on the referencing of the euro in its reserve basket, it could reduce the European Central Bank's control over the euro, impair the monetary policy transmission mechanism by affecting the liquidity position of the euro's area's banks, and undermine the single currency's international role, end quote. Mersch Mersh. I say Mersh. Mersh is also concerned that the Libra currency would not be salvageable by a lender of last resort, since there is no central bank for digital assets. One of the ideas is that, this is kind of where it gets very weird, is that if you have a bank, the bank's not doing well, you go to your central bank and say, hey, we need some money, and they'll go, okay, and they'll print some more money and kind of hand it to you. That's not exactly how it happens, but this is kind of the idea for it. One of the main arguments that I've seen against cryptocurrencies is that there's not a central bank. So what do you do when you need to bail someone out? This also ties almost slightly. There's a very thin thread between them as to the entire custody discussion. How do we custody these things that we don't control? How do we get control over these things that we don't control? If there's an entity, a corporation, a situation, a blah, 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 if the New York Stock Exchange, if this bank, if so and so, if everyone is reliant on cryptocurrencies and we are not issuing these cryptocurrencies and that bank goes down, who then pays for that bank? How do we create more of this when we can't create more of it? Because before, what we've seen, how the world has worked, is that if a bank is not doing well, you pretty much create more money, hand it to the bank, and the bank goes, yeah, I'm feeling better now. But what happens if a bank is doing fraudulent activities and they go down and there's no central bank for them to, or they can't go to Bitcoin's office and say, hey, can you give me about 10,000 more of those? It's just not possible. Merch is also concerned that the Libra currency would not be salvageable. There we go. Libra would be backed by a basket of fiat currencies, at least in theory, held in these accounts of specially assigned exchangers. But there is no telling what risks may be related to the fluctuating exchange rate. The European Central Bank has been generally favorable to fintech solutions operating in fiat, but the Libra project has gained extreme criticism for the need to create a new asset. In the past, European Central Bank sources have spoken against using a digital token in the place of fiat, as in the case of Estonia's Estcoin. I'm pretty certain at this point, especially because we haven't seen any backlash from Telegram, Kik, anyone else who's creating a stable coin, is basically because it's based off of the money that's being printed in another country. What Facebook is doing, while evil, my opinion, is genius in its own way, because they've made sure that it's not, if you tie something directly to the US dollar and the US dollar goes down, well, your whole ship goes down. If you tie something to the US dollar and the euro, you have a 50-50 chance. If you tie it to multiple things around the world, if you tie a couple of hundred things around the world and 28 of them go down, your ship is still floating. So one of the main arguments has been thus far, and it pretty much, it always just comes down to control. If someone is trying to create something that is out of the control of the European Central Bank, the United States Federal Reserve, or any other central banking authority, they fear it because they don't control it. And this is why I think we continue on this discussion, and we will continue until Libra launches, until Bitcoin takes over the world, or whatever the next situation might be, is because more and more companies, institutions, banks, everything, they're starting to realize that they don't have to rely on the US dollar. They don't have to rely on the euro. You can create your own. If you get enough people behind you to stand next to you, then you kind of create a scary situation for the current system. Something is going to eventually topple and or take over the currencies that we have in the world right now, but it's going to be interesting to see exactly which one that it's going to be, and exactly I'm most interested in if world leaders will finally openly say, we have to back that. We have to get behind it because we're not doing so well anymore. I think it may take about 2 years. I'm pretty sure these discussions are already happening. You have to even keep in your mind, I said this before years ago, the fact that they're even discussing this means that it's a problem to them, and it's something that, I don't want to use the word is a threat to them. It's just something that they can't control, and therefore it may cause problems for them in the future. And there's a reason why we keep hearing world leaders either banning Bitcoin, talking about banning Bitcoin, saying they don't like Bitcoin, talking about banning Libra, or talking about we have to find a way to be able. This is why we had a couple of days ago, they were like, well, we'll be fine with Libra if we can figure out a way to get it under control. It pretty much means they want control over it. If they can figure out how to control the network or control Facebook, then they'll be fine with it. But I doubt any of that's going to happen. I feel like Facebook is on a war path because they know that they can especially after all the fear that's been popping up. They know that they can create a new currency, which is absolutely insane. Moving over to Thailand, and an official announcement today, Thai SEC regulated BX crypto exchange stated that it would be discontinuing digital asset trading services at the end of the month. The surprise revelation offered little explanation other than the company, Bitcoin Co. Limited, was focusing on other business opportunities. The announcement on the platform's web page continues stating that all deposits will be disabled after the 6th of September and trading will be halted as of the 30th of September. They said, we ask that all customers withdraw any funds held at the bx.in.th website into their own bank account or digital wallet. The company will not be seeking to hold an SEC-issued digital asset exchange license for the year of 2020, and we ask all customers to withdraw their funds before the 1st of November 2019. BX was one of the exchanges with a legal license to operate in Thailand. Only 4 were granted digital asset trading licenses by the SEC at the beginning of the year, so regulatory concerns do not seem to have been behind the move. I think that we are seeing the beginning of the crunch, if you will. When Thailand's not a gigantic country, and when you have the top crypto exchange within the country closing its doors, especially unexpectedly, rapidly, quickly, and announcing, hey, everyone, take your money off, and we're going to be doing other things, I wonder what happened behind the scenes. I feel like if you are a cryptocurrency exchange and you're making a lot of money, there was probably a threat thrown in somewhere around there. I know we probably don't have a lot of listeners in Thailand, just more so to let everyone know what we're seeing as we get further news of the economy, where the economy is going, where the economy is not going. A lot of world leaders, central banks, and keeping in mind, if we're getting talk about the US and Europe being rattled by potential Brexit fears, trade wars, recession, imagine how it is for other countries that aren't as rich as the other countries. So what we have now is, you've heard before me talk about, whenever we've seen something like this happening before, or any other country, even just more so, people around the world in many countries are starting to realize that their local fiat currencies are garbage, and they started putting their money into cryptocurrencies, especially when you get analysts talking about that potentially Bitcoin could maybe 100x, even maybe 1,000x from where it is right now. That means a lot to a lot of people. What it doesn't mean a lot to are people who actually run the countries, because they run the risk of losing everything that they've created, they've built, this society, this system that we have been, I don't want to say oppressed by, but you get what I'm leaning towards when I'm saying that. The world leaders, and to be completely fair, this may not, I may even just be jumping to conclusions when it comes to exactly why they're closing this, but like I said, one would assume as the top exchange in any country, you're probably not going to abruptly announce, yeah, we're closing down, we're going to do other stuff, we're going to go to the beach. I think, especially because we've also seen a number of other cryptocurrency exchanges in other countries around the world either not getting their licenses renewed, being shut down, being hacked, which I always think is a very interesting one. How we won't hear about them for a very long time. Their government will say, we don't trust cryptocurrencies, we don't trust so and so and so. And then an exchange gets hacked. Not saying that this one got hacked, but an exchange gets hacked. And then the government doesn't renew their license. They go, oh yeah, it's so bad. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, we can't allow, investors to have stuff like this. And then they kind of completely disappear, or they simply don't even give cryptocurrency regulations anyway. This is going to continue happening. I think it's unavoidable as governments and central banks look for a way to maintain control in something that they cannot control. There are going to be a lot of things like this that we have in the news. Next up, The Ministry of Economy of Kyrgyzstan has submitted a draft law which proposes the taxation of crypto mining on the 28th of August. The Ministry of Economy of Kyrgyzstan has submitted the draft law on amending the tax code with the aim of including cryptocurrency mining taxation, according to the news outlet Khabar. The draft law was specifically developed to allow for the possible taxation of crypto mining. The taxation of cryptocurrency mining is expected to increase budget revenues and to contribute to the principle of fair taxation in the Republic. The Ministry of Education, Economy, of Kyrgyzstan seems to be exploring two possible options to implement taxes on cryptocurrency mining. The first option would be the taxation of income, while the second would be taxing expenses incurred during cryptocurrency mining. What? The report suggests that the Kyrgyz government stands to earn some around 4.2 million US dollars, which is fairly significant, it says, in a country whose annual budget stands at around 1 billion. That Bitcoin's budget is, what was it, 200 times? Bitcoin has a current market cap of 200 years of this country's annual budget. This is why I always say sometimes, I won't dwell on this, but I always say, wouldn't it just make sense if a country was like, hey, let's adopt Bitcoin to become one of the richest countries in the world? Anyway, as Cointelegraph reported, Kyrgyzstan explicitly banned cryptocurrencies, wow, back in July 2014. That's a long time ago. Followed by the National Bank of Kyrgyz Republic issuing a statement warning that the use of Bitcoin and other virtual currencies as a form of payment are illegal under the national law. So I guess they're pulling a China here. They realize they can't control it, so they have to ban it, but they're okay with people mining it so that they can get money from it. It's kind of weird. I can almost assure you there's no one out there listening to this right now. Back in 1999, I'll even give you a good 2005, who thought that in the future you'd be able to use a computer to create a digital currency that then would be taxed by a government who didn't create it. It's kind of odd. I hope sometimes that things like this are the beginning of a country simply saying, hey, yeah, eventually we'll allow it. I'm not too hopeful on that. And I wonder exactly who is able to mine within the country, if that makes any sense. We had information before that there are a number of countries around the world where cryptocurrency mining is illegal unless you are an institutional investor. And I feel like there are a couple of countries around the world that may also be following that same exact rule. To kind of finish things off, for those who have not been paying attention, the market is relative. That's a really weird photo. Has been relatively right now the last couple of hours in the green. What we've seen over the last couple of hours, it says U.S. stock futures dove on Monday after Washington and Beijing placed new taxes on each other's goods, while Argentina imposed capital controls and cast a new spotlight on emerging market risks. We spoke about Argentina in the last video and exactly how that's causing a number of waves around the world as they're trying to desperately get control over the money within their country and saying who can and cannot use what and how much you can buy with something or how much money you can take out of the country at one time. And even crazier, it's actually even more stringent and desperate seeming than what China currently has. So what we have right now, it says oil falls as U.S. China add more tariffs in trade war. I think the tariffs went into effect yesterday. So as people were waking up today, people started panicking, and therefore we are in the moments where the prices of stocks and commodities and other things are going down, while Bitcoin seems to be faring very well. Even this one says right here, here's a list of recession signals that are flashing red. U.S. imposes 15% tariffs on range of Chinese goods. China levies tariffs on U.S. oil for the first time. It is looking like this is not going to get any better anytime soon, especially as we continue seeing a number of countries. And this is why, rather, when we finally get news like this, when we get news about Argentina or Venezuela or this country or that's happening, it's usually passed through the hands of many higher authority people, if that kind of makes any sense. So we get like the trickle down, if you will, of the news. And even when we hear about how bad the news is, it's usually always a lot worse. Like, especially if you've ever watched any documentaries on the 2008, 2009 crisis, like as it was beginning in 2008, people saw at the beginning of the year, they were like, something's not right. And people kept on screaming, there's a recession coming, something's not right, everything's flashing red, something's really wrong. And everyone's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And if you watch any documentaries on it, it's very fascinating because the news that we got on the news was never what was actually happening. The people on the news were always told to give us like the softer version. Yeah, this happened and so, but like behind the scenes, there were people losing their minds because they realized, okay, we have about 6 months left, then everything is going to completely collapse. Anyway, so I wonder what the real story is. It's clear that stocks are going down, people are afraid, but behind the scenes, I even wonder how many people have been selling off every single month, because I mean, even more so, if you've watched a lot of documentaries on these things, the people who benefited the most from the collapse of the 2008 market were the richest people in the world, because they saw what was coming. Everyday normal people didn't see what was coming. Even people who trade stocks and stuff back and forth, they kept on thinking that the good times would roll on forever. The people who had the most money in the market had sold off months before, fragments and fragments, and for every week, every day, tiny bits. It had no real effect on the market. And by the time the market collapsed, they knew that the collapse was going to come eventually, kept on waiting to see how low it was going to go. They bought up as many stocks, bonds, mutual funds, houses as possible. And now I was listening to a podcast earlier, and it was so fascinating. They said it was a podcast from the Wall Street Journal, and it was something about how people got left out of this new 10-year bull run that we've had, because everything was accumulated by people who already had. It's kind of like I don't know. Anyway, slight derail on the. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same topic with what was happening in Detroit many years ago, when nobody wanted to invest in Detroit. Nobody wanted to put money into Detroit. And I remember hearing news. It was about a good 3-4 years ago. A couple of Chinese investors, they were buying up like blocks worth of homes. And I don't mean like they bought a house. They didn't buy 3 houses. They were buying like 15 blocks at a time. So in entire streets. They were tearing everything down or rebuilding things up. And now these areas are like the new downtown and the new this and the new this. And this has more money. And this is. So anyway, I always wonder who benefits the most from other people's demise. Fascinating. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. They are Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Adam Graysick, Mohair Maroney, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Niels, Woody and Daisy, Triple M and J, Jared Snyder, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Mill Wheezy, JR, Mechanic, Strange, Radio Central, Crypto Artist, Cole D, 3D, Cryptopolis, Nicholas 101, Peace, One Love, Damien, Zetsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Crypto and Beer Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, and Miller hits chest every day, and Kyle keeps skipping leg day at the moment. For those of you who are not looking at the screen, prices are in the green. I'm trying not to hold my breath as much as possible. Bitcoin's dominance is very close to 70%. We had news about that a couple of weeks ago, that people think that that may be the actual tipping point for Bitcoin, as not a store of value, but it's more like an indication that Bitcoin could potentially surge higher, as people are clearly, in this instance, if 70% of the market is Bitcoin, therefore, one would assume that consumers, institutional investors, everyone who has money in the Bitcoin space believes in Bitcoin more than they do altcoins. So saith the analysts. But at the moment, many of the top coins are in green. Like I said, trying not to hold my breath. A lot of the trading volumes over the last 4 hours have rocketed upwards. I think everyone is anticipating some type of a big move. I think we are still looking at the charts in that same trading range as we were before. A lot of people are saying that this trading range will end, of course, once again, before we end up hitting the end of September, which is once again when Bakkt is going to launch. I think I would be flabbergasted if Bitcoin was at the end of its trading range, Bakkt launched, and the price went down. Everything's possible, but I was still scratching my head for a number of hours. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever on this planet you might be. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.